Hi folks, welcome back to Recruiting and Retaining a Strong Core series. Today we will be discussing interviewing. Before you begin interviewing your candidates, make sure you set aside some time for some preparation. List all of the qualities that you are looking for in a candidate. When you set up your meetings with the candidates, make sure that you use an easy to access calendar like Calendly, Calendly, which is a free scheduler to schedule all of your interviews. Decide when you want to conduct all your interviews. Do you want to do them all at once, maybe in the same few days, or do you want to do this on a rolling basis? What platform will you use to do interviews? Will it be in person, Zoom, or a phone call? A phone call is probably the most accessible for all, but maybe you do one interview as a phone call and the next one in person. Decide who will be in the interviews. Avoid unconscious bias during the interview process by having a diverse panel. Each of the panel members can ask a different question, allowing the candidate to get a better sense of knowing each one of the staff members. Maybe it's a site supervisor and the program director. Decide how many interviews the candidate will go through. A lot of programs mentioned that your program has the initial interview and then a second follow-up interview with the host site, which is great. I would encourage you to make sure that you are part of the process at least one stage, either the initial or the second. Have a plan of what you will ask the candidate, what information you will share, and how you will evaluate your members. And allow for adjustments and accommodation during the interview, and test your equipment ahead of time. Make sure that your internet connection is working and your Zoom links are active if that is the method that you've chosen. If you decided to do a telephone, make sure that the telephone number that you have for this candidate is correct. Maybe when you do your email out to confirm the interview, you confirm their phone number as well. The interview. This can be a very tense or scary or nerve-wracking situation for the candidate. So make sure that you are smiling and welcoming. You are sharing information about the program and also evaluating whether this is going to be a good fit for this potential member. So before beginning the interview, there's some basic etiquette. Be on time, dress professionally, and follow up afterward with some sort of a response and explain the process of, we'll be doing one interview here. If you're selected to move forward, you'll do another interview. When you start the interview, be professional and respectful of the applicant's time. So keep an eye on the clock and don't keep them for over an hour. If you say it's going to be an hour-long interview, don't keep them for 10 minutes if you ask them to block off an hour. Smile. Keep that eye contact as well, even if it's via Zoom. Make sure to discuss the organization and the position and the timeline for onboarding. These are all very important things that were maybe listed in the position description, but they might not remember offhand. Highlight the benefits of this position through questions. So maybe like, this position doesn't require past experience or education or what have you, but it does provide training. What skills are you looking to develop? So that's just one example. Re-emphasize your program's commitment to diversity. Also make sure that your diverse panel that you have interviewing has gone through bias and awareness training. Be willing to share your personal story of why you became involved in national service. Be prepared to discuss the next steps in the interview process, and make sure to answer any common applicant questions that they may have. Hopefully you don't get any off-the-wall questions, but generally questions are, what are the times I need to be serving, and will I be traveling, that sort of a thing. While you're interviewing, I encourage you to adopt behavioral interviewing. This is an interviewing technique where the applicant is asked to describe past behavior, and this is for you to be able to determine whether this person is suitable for the position. For example, an interviewer may ask, tell me about a time that you dealt with a complicated manager or upset client. And this will allow a candidate to describe how they reacted in some way. And then the interviewer can ask follow-up questions. Make sure to keep in mind that past behavior does not always predict future behaviors. Was a lesson learned during any of, this, if maybe there were red flags in their answer? Did they learn anything from it? Would they make any changes? Hiring decisions shouldn't just be made on the first impression or hard skills alone. So this behavioral-based interviewing can help identify candidates that maybe look really good on paper, but may lack those essential qualities. And it'll also give you an idea of how candidates react and how they collaborate on a team and what their interactions might look like outward facing. The programs that use behavioral interviewing questions are using them geared toward identifying attributes that lead to members having a successful term. So are they coachable? Are they accountable? Are they a problem solver? Do they take initiative? Are they resilient? So make sure that you're asking questions and you have those prepared ahead of time that can maybe touch on some of those topics. Stay out of the woods. They're like, would you have considered this? And what would you do in this situation? There are too many theoretical options there. And a lot of people don't have past experience. So maybe encourage those individuals to discuss a past volunteer or team member experience. Body language. Make sure to be careful with this, even if you're on Zoom. Square off your shoulders, keep your head up, engage like you're engaging at a coffee shop with somebody. If you're in person, be careful not to cross your arms and your legs. Various personality attributes can result in negative body language, and a person who may be really shy might not have a ton of eye contact, but they're not dishonest. So try to make sure that your body language presents as being confident and engaged, but don't necessarily disqualify a candidate because of their body language. Again, AmeriCorps is a learning opportunity and professional development program, so they don't have to be perfect interviewers. Familiarize yourself with the STAR method, which is situation, task, action, and result, to help guide your applicants through any of those situational questions that you may have asked. And how to prevent ghosting. This has been a big thing recently among programs, especially with all of the competition out there. Make sure to bring up questions about long-term goals for a candidate. Do they have any? Do they even have short-term goals? Does it sound like a good fit? Determine if the applicant is applying for other jobs or service positions. And if candidates only have those short-term goals, they may not be a good fit because they're not thinking about how they're going to get through an entire year of service. There are some questions and topics that you should avoid. This includes age, race or color, disabilities, marital status, religion, height and weight, non-professional affiliations, and a personal life, such as whether they have a spouse or children or what their financial situation is. That is not for you to judge whether you think that they can perform the duties based on any of these. Especially the disability question. Maybe you see something in the person, maybe they are in a wheelchair and heavy lifting is required, or maybe this candidate is missing a limb. There are ways that they may still be able to complete the task, and they don't need to explain that to you right then and there. But all you can do is list out the actual requirements of the position, and then the candidate can determine whether they will seek a reasonable accommodation or if they're able to do it themselves. All right, when you evaluate your members, have this be a multi-tiered level of assessment. Like we discussed, you want to have a diverse panel and a panel that has been trained on unconscious bias training. Make sure that they're all asking the same questions. Maybe you have a rubric or a scoring matrix, and you want to make sure that your interview panel is reflective of your company's culture. So you want to make sure that when you're evaluating them, that it is reflective of what your program or organization looks like and feels like, with skills and abilities. That way that you'll get a good sense. Maybe somebody will pick up a little something that a candidate said that maybe somebody else didn't. And then at the end of the interview and everybody's scores are tallied, ask whether you can train the candidate. Do they show initiative? Is there passion and commitment? And then follow up with the candidate either way. So, are you ready for this interview? No, the interview is ready for you. You have any other questions, I encourage you to reach out to myself or anybody on the MCSC team, or review either of these resources. Good luck!